I haven't posted in a bit because life has been really busy, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been reading. So let's have a little catch up today, just a cozy chat about what we've been reading lately. Make sure to drop a comment, let me know the best thing that you've read so far this month, and I look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on the books that I'm going to talk about in this video. So far for the month of February, I've read 6 books, and most of them were pretty good. Even the ones that weren't the best really made me think. So these are the ones that I haven't talked about yet in a video, and I thought we could do a little chat. One of my goals this year was to read more nonfiction because that percentage just keeps dropping on my Storygraph data. So I read Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdal, and this is a rather short book, but it has a lot of really interesting scientific studies that were done to kind of see how we really function at our best, what drives us to get things done, what drives us to excellence as people. The purpose of each of these chapters and focuses is to allow you to set goals that are actually achievable for you, that actually are meaningful for you, to make little steps toward having the life that you want to. If you feel like the way that your schedule looks like right now doesn't really align with your priorities, or maybe you're using a lot of the time that you want to be truly resting and recovering, just doom scrolling on your phone, this book is going to give you some things to try that will help you break out of some of those habits and create some new healthier ones. So this is great whether you're looking to prioritize relationships more. I think a lot of this book is you get out of it what you put into it. So if your attention is starting to wane, maybe the particular technique or topic that it's discussing isn't relevant to you right now, but like you might want to dip into it in the future. It's one of those that you read and a lot of the advice is so relevant to kind of everyone, so you do want to spread it along. So I would recommend giving it a try. Even if you don't normally consider yourself a nonfiction reader, I personally am not. Back into fiction, I have A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. I knew going into this one that it had a premise of being like I Captured the Castle by Dodie Smith, which I recently read and loved, and then The Great Gatsby, which is also one of my all-time favorites. Sold on that premise. If Cassandra, who is like the budding writer, the protagonist of I Captured the Castle, became friends with Gatsby. They accepted her into their friend group and now she's just one of them, but she really isn't on the inside. Our main character, Lou, she's lived across the lake from this very fancy house, and one time she decides to sneak in because there is an open window or a crack in a window, and she is in the house because it has been abandoned. It's clearly owned by someone because it's still filled with their things. So she picks apples from their trees and she sneaks in the window into the library and she reads books, and she just enjoys having this place all to herself until one day the owners come home. And that's how this book opens. They're in the library as the owners come home and she just barely makes it away. Things start to happen and she ends up with an extended invitation, and she forms new friendships and she experiences a side of life that she's never known before. She gets involved with a lot of upper class people and their kind of social exploits. She still values her closest friendship with her sister, but her sister has just gotten married, and so she kind of feels like her sister has left for another world as well. And so their relationship is a little strained, and she has these new friends that are becoming more and more important to her, even though she knows deep down she doesn't really belong. They're accepting her for now, but she doesn't know what the expiration date is on that. Doesn't have a very Gatsby-esque ending, if that makes any sense, but it does allow you to kind of play with the things that you maybe appreciated about both of these books. So for that reason, I would definitely recommend it if you like either of those, I Captured the Castle or The Great Gatsby. The other book, we spent more time with her family, and this one we spent more time with the Gatsby-esque family. So shifts the balance in a very big way. The next couple books make it clear that I've kind of been mood reading on a theme lately, but part of that is just because a lot of the books that were in my TBR for this whole year are younger stories. They're young coming of age stories. So I finally read The Illumination of Ursula Flight by Anna Marie Crowhurst. In this book, we're following a spirited young character named Ursula, and Ursula is growing up in a family where parents are kind of struggling to make ends meet, and the only outcome that is possible for them is to see Ursula married off, but unfortunately she's married off quite young with a much older man, and so she has kind of like this doomed fate from the beginning, but as a child, because she still is a child, she has dreams of being a playwright, and she has written several plays that she acts out with her friends. A lot of them depict actual scenes in her life that are happening in the moment, and she kind of imagines them as plays. So we get to read those with all of the parts and the action descriptions, just like in a script, which is really interesting. It's quite a feminist tale in that there's a lot of things that happen to Ursula that she has to kind of grapple with. Most of the male characters are not ideal. They're not trustworthy, and terrible things happen to Ursula. So it's kind of hard to read in that respect, and it reminded me a little of Catherine Called Birdie, which I think is a little bit more funny, a little less gross. If you do like to read like feminist stories, there is still like some humor in this, and I did have a lot of tabs in here from just funny things that happened or like serious things. When Ursula's little sister was born, she described that she was dark-haired and fiery red all over, with a slimy, scrunched up face that could not be called beautiful, and looked somewhat like my father, with the same bulbous nose and cupid's bow lips that he had in miniature. She slept soundly while I kissed her hot little head and whispered in her hair that though she was ugly, it did not signify, for I was her big sister and would love her all my days. It's funny because the way that this is written is quite charming in the language, and the different characters are very memorable, but at the same time, like, a lot of the topics that it deals with and some of the situations are just downright uncomfortable, so like I don't feel like I can honestly recommend this one. But I feel like if I say it's a feminist tale, then you kind of know what you're in for. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this deserves 3 stars, but I don't feel like rereading it. There were definitely some things that I loved about it, things that I didn't like about it. So kind of mixed on this one, honestly. Another one that I feel kind of conflicted about, this tiny little story that has such a big impact, and that is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. This is a story of a young girl who has grown up in a prison-like setting underground. She doesn't really know how she got there, and none of the other 40 women who are in the same cell with her know either. So it's a huge mystery. Day by day goes by, they don't really do much, they can't really do much, but they do, some of them recall details of the families that they've had, the relationships that they had, and the occupations that they had before all of this happened. But everything has kind of fallen into uselessness because of their current circumstances. The youngest of these 40 women, this little girl who's growing up, and she's trying to learn about the world, she's trying to learn about how things are supposed to be, even though her present circumstances are complete opposite. And then things change, and they have to learn how to survive, and they have a bigger mystery awaiting them outside of their cell. It's kind of hard to get into the details of this one without spoiling it. If you want to read this one, you probably should go into it knowing very little. All that I'll say is that it was kind of bleak, and I wasn't satisfied with the ending. This is just not the type of book that I gravitate toward. I know the story of this book, so when people are talking about this book, I know it, so I feel like I'm clued in now. But at the same time, there's just so many pieces that I don't really know exactly what the author was trying to say with this book. So yeah, I didn't love it. Let me know if you liked this one, if you felt the same in the comments, please. A surprisingly good read was The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose. This is the sequel to The Maid. A famous mystery author is coming to stay at the hotel and to give a very special announcement about his life's work. Something happens and there's a murder to solve. So Molly, and her keen powers of observation with her slightly lower threshold of detecting when people are serious or not, is on the case. And she also has the added element of a young maid who she is training. She has a kind of conflict with another maid who is vying for her position as head maid, and there's all these like funny little dynamics at play, but we also get a glimpse into Molly's past, into her time with her grandmother, and more of her grandmother's witty expressions that Molly still uses to this day, and I just really loved it. The humor was really great as well. I don't know if this is a duology or a series yet, but Molly was portrayed as a much more smart and confident character, and I think the first book kind of conveyed that she was all over the place, that she was clueless, and I think in this one Nita kind of managed to volume up her character and our confidence in her character. She actually is very intelligent. Yeah, she might not get all the social clues, but she's also not like a bumbling detective, so I just feel like this one was a better rep. Also, if we're to believe that Molly also is neurodivergent, I feel like this is a much better rep for a neurodivergent character, if that's what Molly is, than the first book as well. I know some people didn't really care for like the backstory, but I thought it really made it, and I liked that we're talking about mystery writers in this one. I would give this one 4 stars, perhaps 5 stars. I'm also reading this book, Into the Sunken City, by Dinesh Thiru, and this book is a retelling of Treasure Island, but it also has some vibes of Treasure Planet, the Disney adaptation, if you've seen that animated film. We're following 2 sisters, Jin and Tara, and they are taking care of the inn that their parents used to run, and this is set in a world where the climate crisis has only increased, and due to some scientific mistakes, the cloud cover has kind of knitted together, and so most of the earth is covered by this barrier of cloud. It's been a very long time since people have actually seen the sun. The earth is covered in water. Many of the cities have been completely submerged. They're just buried wrecks at this point. So like there's entire cities that are underwater, and there are people that go wrecking. They put on dive suits and they go explore these ruined cities looking for anything of value, and gold still has a very high value, so fine metals are still very high value, and so people go searching through the wrecks. They bring up treasure and sell it off, but the things that are the most valuable are actually dry land and places where you can still see the sun. So Jin and her sister are dreaming of being able to see the sun someday, but they know that they probably won't make that happen with the income from their inn. And one day, this mysterious stranger stumbles in and kind of commandeers their life. This has some really strong ties to Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. This does have a lot of variables as well because of the nature of the underwater cities, these 2 sisters at the heart of the story, and some of the side characters that we get to also interact with. It's very fast-paced, it's a very short book, and I'm probably going to be finishing it this week, and I look forward to sharing my final thoughts with you soon. So that's everything that I've been reading recently. Please let me know anything that you're in the middle of or anything that you just finished, and if anything from my pile sparked your interest, let me know. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that you're having a really great reading month. I will see you in another video soon.